Okay. Hi, this is Mark Cantor from South Florida Intervention, and I'm here with my lovely wife.
Julie Cantor. Good to be back with you all.
Yeah. So Julie and I have been talking today. There's a big study that came out by Sapien Laboratories or something like that,
Yes.
a nonprofit, and they're talking about the stark numbers of how diagnosable cases of mental illness have increased in just 1 year from 16% to 24% or 26%.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
26%.
This is a global study by Sapien Labs, and it's really looking at how are people doing during COVID. So it's a huge study,
Yeah.
and we'll link to it. But the percentage of respondents with clinical level risk increased from 14% in 2019 to 26% in 2020.
Which is just almost double, just below double. But the concerning part, it's all concerning, but the most concerning part, or one of the most concerning parts for parents, is that the group most affected are ages 18 to 24-year-olds.
Yeah, 18 to 24-year-olds in the study.
Yeah. And this
44%, 44%
wow.
of young adults were at risk of a clinical mental health diagnosis in the study that just came out, again, by Sapien Labs.
Yeah. So think about it this way. I mean, pandemic aside, this is an age group, a demographic that in the addiction space we already focus on quite heavily for guys and for girls. 18 years old, they're graduating from high school. There's a lot of mental illness around some adolescence and depression, anxiety, some self-harm, things like that we face. And then they go off to college, and then it's another level of being away from being out of the nest and on their own. And in college is when mental illnesses start to surface. We start to see them. But even beyond that is, so 21 and older, you're graduating college, and now you're looking for a job in a workplace that may not exist, or a very different workplace than you had expected your whole entire life.
It's such a huge concern right now that the United States government has allocated, listen to this, $3.5 billion for block grants addressing mental health and substance use disorders.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is people are getting incredibly isolated, and it's leading to more anxiety and depression and PTSD. And we're seeing people often, when you are dealing with mental health, and I've learned this from you, you end up trying to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. You look for the solution. The solution is drugs and alcohol, and they work until they don't. You know, I always liken it to credit card debt. It feels good while you're spending it, but then you owe it back, and that is a never-ending, painful existence. But you know, a big thing for us too is that connection piece. When you're not connecting with other people, right? So what does it look like? I mean, if you're someone who typically was what we call a problem drinker, or you know, an every other day pot smoker, but having work or having college or having, you know, school or whatever, seeing other people, you had to get up in the morning, you had to get dressed,
right?
You had to see other people,
having some purpose.
You had some purpose, you had some accountability,
or going to a 12-step meeting and getting support, and getting that sponsor, getting people around you who care and know that you didn't show up for the last week.
Where
they
you
might
been?
actually call you, but now we're losing a lot of that structure.
A lot of those safety nets that we've had in other people, we don't get to put eyes on our friends and our coworkers anymore.
Yeah. And I know that you've been traveling and getting a lot of phone calls from families where things are kind of blowing up at home.
Yeah.
And I know you've been doing a lot of within that demographic of 18 to 24. I know you've been doing a lot of interventions, a lot of young people, where kids are home and they're isolating and they're not well.
Yeah, it's kind of the failure to launch demographic. Yeah. And it's for lack of a better explanation, it's a big market in the treatment field. There's a lot of
What
need.
can you do to help a family? They have a 19-year-old. The 19-year-old is smoking pot every day, is not going to school or college. Like what?
Not working.
Yeah, and the parents are beside themselves.
Yeah.
They're trying to work to make ends meet. What can you do to help a family like that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the most important thing is ask for help. There are families out there, and not because they have any ill intention or they don't love their kid. They just don't know. They don't have the knowledge, and they will spend a lot of time thinking about the situation. But you really got to sound the alarm early and get help, because you never know what the problem is. And I'm a big proponent of getting people into treatment, because if it's a failure to launch, it's a college age kid and he's not going to school, he's not working. Being in a situation where action is being taken every day, everybody's going hiking today. Everybody's doing ropes course
right.
today.
So you, in a way, you get that whole, in treatment, you get a community
right.
of people where you are having meetings, you're doing or having
Connection.
going hiking and having that human connection.
Yeah.
And how much time do you think most people will need though in treatment?
It really depends. I mean, always more treatment is better. I always look at the initial treatment recovery as 1 year. Call it 60, 90, 120 days in treatment, followed by intensive outpatient and then sober living, and and there you have a year. But anyway, we'll link this study to the video. I think it's really important. I think it's very telling, and we'll have to watch what happens in the next couple of years. Hopefully, it will go down as the pandemic subsides. That this, and truly, you don't know with the damage that's been done from a social,
fabric.
Yeah, this damage to our society that's been caused by the pandemic. We might not know for years what it really looks like.
Well, it's not good for any of us, for our mental health. And then if we layer on that we have a child or a spouse or a loved one who's heavily using drugs and alcohol, we do need to do something to get them help and not isolate.
Yeah,
isolating is the worst.
I always say that mental health is not fatal. Isolation is fatal.
Yeah.
So get out there, get it out. When a problem shared is a problem halved. All that stuff is true. Reading. There's a lot of good self-help on YouTube, a lot of good AA, Al-Anon, CODA. It's all out there, and it really helps me.
You don't have to be alone.
You don't have to be alone.
There are meetings online and hopefully soon in person.
I hope so. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on this study. We'll link the study to the video. I think it's very important. We want to watch that. Thanks for sharing that with me, and thanks for watching the video. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.